All right, listener. So you're ready to jump into Helldivers 2. Awesome. But maybe feeling a little lost. Like, where do you even start?
It can definitely feel overwhelming, especially with all the new stuff.
Totally. That's why we've got this awesome guide right here. It's got all the intel you need to not just survive, but actually thrive on Super Earth.
Yeah, this guide is perfect for new players.
So no more scouring wikis for hours on end.
Forget the info overload. We're giving you the good stuff straight up.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest questions new players have, well, it's about whether Helldivers 2 is pay to win. Like, do you need to shell out cash to get ahead?
Right, that's a common concern. But the short answer, no way. This game, at its heart, it's all about co-op. Teamwork, skill, that's what really matters.
Okay, that's good to hear. So let's break down this Warbond system that the guide keeps mentioning. It sounds a bit intense, like some time-limited deal you gotta grind for.
Yeah, but it's not like that at all. Think of Warbonds more like expansions, but the cool thing is they don't expire.
Okay, so no pressure to spend money right away.
Nope, you can unlock everything just by playing, at your own pace.
That's a relief. But what about, like, the players who do want to support the devs? Maybe grab some cool cosmetics or something.
Oh yeah, that's where the Super Citizens Edition comes in.
Right, like a deluxe package.
Exactly. It comes with some neat bonuses, a unique weapon, a special skin, and even a fun little mini-game.
Oh, cool. But, and this is important for our listeners, is any of that stuff essential? Like, will they be at a disadvantage if they don't have it?
Not at all. Everything can be earned just by playing. And, there's even a currency, Super Credits, that you earn just by doing missions and exploring.
So even those cool extras, you could potentially unlock them without spending any real money.
You got it. And some players have even figured out ways to, farm these credits. Enough to get a whole new war bond.
Wow, that's dedication. Okay, so we've debunked that whole pay-to-win myth. But speaking of gearing up, this guide talks a lot about finding your own playstyle. Why is that so important in Helldivers 2, especially for a new player?
It's all about making the game, well, yours. You don't want to just follow some generic build,
Yeah, make it your own.
Right. Now, a lot of veteran players, they gravitate towards this cutting-edge war bond, specifically for the LES-16 sickle. It's this energy weapon.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one mentioned a lot. What makes it so popular?
Well, for one, it's really gamepad friendly. Easy to aim, clear line of fire, and here's the kicker, it never needs reloading.
Wait, hold on. A weapon that never needs reloading? That sounds insanely powerful.
It's definitely strong, but like everything, it has its drawbacks. But the point the guide makes is, just because something is, meta or highly recommended, doesn't mean it's the right fit for you.
Makes sense. It's about finding what you enjoy playing.
Exactly. Experimentation is key. And the guide, it gives some great tips on how to discover what works best for your style.
I love that. It's not just about giving you, the best loadout. It's about empowering you to find what clicks for you. And speaking of things that don't always go as planned, the guide author tells this hilarious story about their first death.
Oh, right. In the tutorial.
Yep. Something about diving.
Oh, yeah. They were so focused on those diving instructions that they, accidentally held down the sprint key at the same time.
Oh, no. So instead of a tactical maneuver...
Their Helldiver, it popped right back up.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of danger. It's a good reminder that even in a tutorial, things can go wrong in the funniest ways.
I bet. Okay, so we've established diving is important, but it seems like it's more than just a way to dodge attacks, right? What's the real deal with diving in Helldivers 2?
It's crucial. Diving doesn't just help you avoid fire, it also gives you, a huge boost to your damage resistance.
Really?
Yeah, mastering this is essential, especially when you're starting out. It could literally mean the difference between surviving a hit and getting completely obliterated.
Okay, so diving is a must-learn. But the guide also mentions going prone. What's the strategic difference there?
So going prone, that's great for, lowering your profile, maybe staying hidden. But diving, that's your go-to move for dodging attacks and soaking up damage.
Okay, so prone is more for stealth, diving is for survival.
Precisely.
Got it. Now, something else that caught my eye. These samples. It sounds like everyone in the squad shares the loot, which is awesome. But how does that actually work?
Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Any samples you collect, they're shared with the whole team.
That's great.
But there's a catch. The person carrying those samples, they have to make it back to the extraction zone alive.
Ah, so the pressure is on.
Yeah, it leads to some interesting team dynamics. You'll see some players, they'll grab, drop samples just to keep them safe.
Even if they didn't find them themselves.
Exactly. It's about getting those precious samples back to base no matter what.
That's awesome. Really emphasizes the teamwork aspect. Okay, so we've covered samples, but let's talk ship upgrades. It's not all just running and gunning, right? What does the guide recommend for new players looking to prep for battle?
Ship modules, those are a game changer. The guide highlights a really effective combo for early game. The liquid ventilated cockpit paired with the Eagle airstrike stratagem.
Okay, that sounds powerful. Why is that combination so good?
So the liquid ventilated cockpit, that reduces the cooldown on your Eagle airstrikes. And trust me, you'll want to use those as often as possible.
So you're basically calling in airstrikes left and right.
It's incredibly powerful, especially early on. It can leap out groups of enemies, even destroy structures.
Nice. But it's not just about your own ship, right? You've got to think about your squad mates, too.
Absolutely. Coordinating booster selections with your team, that's crucial. Imagine everyone picking the same booster. You'd be missing out on so many potential benefits.
Yeah, that makes sense. Teamwork again. Okay, so communication is key for samples, for boosters. What about landing strategies? Any tips for a new player on choosing the right spot to touch down?
Don't just pick the closest landing zone to the objective. Sometimes landing further out and using the terrain to your advantage, that can make a huge difference.
So it's like scouting the battlefield before you charge in.
Exactly. The guide emphasizes preparing yourself before you even leave the landing zone. Call down a support weapon, your backpack, a supply pack if you have it.
So you're fully equipped and ready for anything.
Exactly. Super Earth is a dangerous place. You got to be prepared.
All right, so we've covered some great foundational stuff here, but this guide, it goes so much deeper. Give us a little taste of the advanced tactics our listener can expect as they progress.
Oh, there's a lot to unpack. But just to get you excited, we'll be talking about mastering enemy awareness, using those pings strategically, and even a tactic they call the Goblin Slayer approach.
Goblin Slayer, that sounds intense.
It's all about making sure you haven't missed any enemies. Trust me, it can save your life.
Okay, I'm intrigued. And then there's this Pelican Weight trick where you actually use the extraction ship as a temporary turret.
That one takes some practice, but when you pull it off, it's amazing.
Well, listener, it sounds like you're in for a treat with this guide. But remember, it's not about following a checklist. It's about finding what works for you. And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in part 2 of this deep dive. So stay tuned.
See you there. Welcome back to our Helldivers 2 Deep Dive.
All right, let's get right back into it. We're about to uncover some seriously advanced tactics here.
We're going to turn you into a Super Earth strategist.
Love it. You mentioned before that even the environment plays a role in strategy. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so the guide really emphasizes that the map isn't just a pretty background.
Right.
It's a dynamic element you can actually use to your advantage. For instance, did you know you can swim in Helldivers 2?
Hold on, swim? Like, are we talking underwater combat?
Not exactly scuba missions. It's more like a tactical escape route. You can submerge for a short time, just enough to, cross a river or a lake.
Okay.
And get this, enemies can't follow you underwater.
Whoa, so if you find yourself pinned down, a quick dip in the water could save your bacon.
Exactly. The guide also talks about utilizing terrain right from the drop. Like going prone immediately when you land, that can help you avoid detection.
Especially if you're near enemy structures.
Yeah, it's almost like a stealth drop, taking the enemy by surprise.
So it's about using those first few seconds wisely, blending in with the surroundings.
Yeah.
I love how this guide emphasizes those subtle but crucial tactics. What other tips does it offer for staying off the enemy radar?
Breaking line of sight is huge. The enemies in Helldivers 2, they aren't exactly the smartest when it comes to tracking. If you can duck behind cover, use a smoke grenade, they tend to lose you pretty quickly.
Ah, so it's about using those moments of confusion to reposition or make a quick getaway. It sounds like a constant game of cat and mouse, using the environment to outsmart the enemy.
You got it. It adds a whole other layer of strategy to the game.
Now, we've talked about teamwork before, but what are some specific tips for, maximizing squad coordination beyond what we've already covered?
One thing the guide highlights is understanding your squad mates' cooldowns, on their stratagems.
Right.
You can actually see these cooldowns displayed right on your map.
Oh, cool.
So you can plan your attacks much more effectively.
It's like having a mini command center right there on your wrist.
Exactly. But there's a little caveat here.
Okay.
While pinging enemies with a Q key can be helpful, it can also alert nearby foes to your presence.
Ah, so there's a balance, right, between helpful communication and potentially giving away your position.
Precisely. It encourages a more, mindful approach.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk enemy dropships. Any tips for taking those down before they unleash reinforcements?
Taking them out before they reach their drop zone, that's crucial. You not only destroy the ship itself, you also eliminate its entire cargo of enemy soldiers.
So it's like cutting them off at the source?
Exactly. But there's a timing element here.
Okay.
Once that dropship reaches its destination, any troops inside, they're considered deployed. They'll survive even if you destroy the ship.
Oh, so there's like a critical window of opportunity.
You got it.
Yeah.
It highlights the need for, quick thinking and precise execution.
Right, right. And speaking of timing, the guide actually talks about the rhythm of combat. What do they mean by that?
It emphasizes learning enemy behavior patterns, their reaction times. They have a slight delay before they notice you, and there's a predictable interval between their reload and when they fire.
Interesting.
Mastering this rhythm, it allows you to time your dives, your movements, your attacks much more effectively.
It's almost like learning a dance, but with lasers and explosions.
Exactly. There's a level of mastery that separates the, seasoned Helldivers from the rookies.
Now we can't forget about loot boxes.
Right.
The guide mentions containers. Are those the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
And are they worth going after?
Oh, absolutely. You'll need grenades or explosives to crack them open, but the rewards can be worth it.
Like what?
Super credits, medals for unlocking gear, and even those valuable requisition slips.
Which give you access to more powerful support options, right?
Exactly.
So it sounds like exploring the map, taking on those optional objectives, it can be just as rewarding as, focusing solely on the main mission.
It's all about balancing risk and reward.
I like it. Now, I noticed something called the Donation Access License module in the guide. What's that all about?
That one sounds helpful. At first glance, it reduces the cost of, calling down a supply pack at the start of a mission.
Okay.
But if you're using the HellPod Space Optimization Booster, which, we highly recommend, those initial supply drops are already free.
So it's kind of redundant in that case?
Yeah, the guide even calls it a red herring.
Hmm.
It might seem appealing, but it's not the most efficient use of your resources.
Good to know. We appreciate you steering our listener towards the truly valuable upgrades. Now, I know there are 4 main types of enemies in Helldivers 2.
Right.
Could you give us a quick rundown? I'm always fascinated by the different enemy types in these games.
Sure. First, you have your static guards. Pretty straightforward. They stay put unless provoked.
Oh, okay.
Then you have patrols. They move around in predictable patterns.
Got it.
You also have reinforcements that can be called in by either guards or patrols.
Right.
And finally, you have spawns generated by enemy nests or fabricators.
Okay, so 4 distinct flavors of baddies to watch out for. Any tips for dealing with those pesky patrols?
One interesting thing the guide points out is that patrols and reinforcements can actually despawn if you're far enough away and out of their sight.
Really?
Yeah, so if you're feeling overwhelmed, a strategic retreat might be your best option.
Left to fight another day. I like it. Are there any other clever ways to, manipulate those enemy spawn patterns?
Absolutely. The guide mentions a tactic that involves luring enemy reinforcements away from your actual objective. It's about creating a diversion and exploiting that cooldown timer on their reinforcement calls.
So you're basically tricking them into sending their troops to the wrong location.
Precisely. It requires good coordination and timing, but when it works, it can really turn the tide of battle.
That's brilliant. Okay, we've touched on it a couple times, but let's dive deeper into that Goblin Slayer tactic. It's such a catchy name.
Right.
What's the strategy behind it?
It goes back to that idea of situational awareness. The Goblin Slayer approach is all about meticulously counting your kills during an encounter to make sure you haven't missed anyone.
Because even one stray enemy can ruin your day.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the heat of battle and lose track,
Yeah.
This tactic encourages a more methodical approach.
It sounds simple, but the discipline to actually execute it, that could be a game changer. What other tips does the guide offer for maximizing, like map awareness?
This one's simple but effective. Systematically clicking around on your map.
Okay.
It reveals additional objectives, even areas you haven't physically explored yet.
Ah, so you can get a sense of the challenges ahead and plan your route accordingly.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, and your map is your most valuable tool in Helldivers 2.
All right, listener, we've covered a ton of ground in this part of the deep dive, but hold on to your helmets because in part 3, we'll uncover even more advanced strategies and, enemy-specific weaknesses. Get ready for true Super Earth domination. All right, we're back for the final part of our Helldivers 2 deep dive.
Ready to dive into some expert-level strategy.
Let's do it. And now, this guide isn't just about throwing weapons and tactics at you.
Right.
It really digs into the why behind the strategies.
It's all about understanding the game, not just memorizing things.
Exactly. And one thing it emphasizes is, like, understanding enemy weaknesses. Knowing how to exploit those can make a huge difference.
For sure, knowing your enemy, that's half the battle, right?
Yeah.
Especially on Super Earth. Take the Shriekers, for example, those flying terrors.
Oh, yeah, those can be a pain.
They can really mess up your flow.
So how do you deal with them?
Well, they have a critical weakness. Their wings.
Oh, interesting. So a well-placed shot can bring them down.
Exactly. And using a weapon with a wide spread, like the breaker shotgun, that can make those wing shots even easier to land.
Makes sense. But wouldn't it be better to, like, prevent them from spawning in the first place?
Of course, the best way to deal with Shriekers long-term is to take out their nests.
Ah, so go for the source. Smart thinking. What about those sneaky stalkers? The guide mentions those being tough for new players.
Yeah, stalkers, they're all about surprise attacks, flanking maneuvers.
So how do you counter that?
Staying vigilant is key, using your map to track their movement, and be ready to dive out of the way when they pounce.
So it's a combination of, like, map awareness and quick reflexes.
Exactly. And if you can find their lairs, prioritize destroying them. It'll cut down their numbers significantly.
Got it. Target those nests and lairs whenever possible. Now, the guide also mentions something called the Sief Artillery. What's that all about?
Oh, the Sief Artillery, that's a hidden gem. Think of it like a powerful outpost you might stumble upon.
Okay.
It gives you access to 5 extra stratagem strikes, and you can even choose the type of shells you want to load.
Whoa, so it's like a customizable artillery barrage.
Precisely. You can load it with everything from napalm to mini nukes.
Okay, I need to find one of these. So we talked about ship upgrades earlier, but there are personal upgrades too, right? What does the guide recommend focusing on?
Well, the Eagle Airstrike Stratagem and the Liquid Ventilated Cockpit Ship Module, those are top priorities early on, especially for newer players.
Yeah, we already talked about those. A powerful combo for sure.
For sure. And then there's the Hellpod Space Optimization Booster. That one's a game changer, especially when you're starting out.
What does that one do?
It makes sure you always spawn with full ammo, grenades, stims, which can be a lifesaver in those early missions.
Okay, that one's going on my shopping list. What about weapon recommendations? Any favorites for beginners?
The guide author really likes the ET-17, the expendable anti-tank weapon. It's powerful, has a short cooldown, and get this, you can even use the stratagem drop itself as a weapon.
Whoa, that's cool. Multi-purpose tool.
Exactly.
What about support weapons?
The AC-8 autocannon, that's a solid choice. Versatile, effective against a lot of enemies, and you unlock it pretty early on.
Nice, adding that to my arsenal. Now, the guide author seems to really like the scout class. What makes that playstyle so effective?
Scouts, they're all about information and stealth. They have extended radar range so they can spot patrols, pinpoint enemy locations, and they're great at going prone, staying undetected.
So they're like the intel gatherers, the eyes and ears of the team.
Exactly. They might not have the raw firepower of some other classes, but their knowledge and stealth can be super valuable to a well-coordinated squad.
It's a good reminder that every class brings something unique to the table.
Totally.
And that teamwork is, like, at the core of Helldivers 2. Speaking of teamwork, the guide has a whole section on advanced landing tactics. What are some of the key takeaways there?
It's not just about picking a safe spot to land. It's about using your drop to gain an immediate tactical advantage.
Okay.
For instance, you can aim your landing craft to crush enemy structures, or position yourself behind cover before the enemy even knows you're there.
So you're turning your arrival into an offensive move.
Exactly.
I love it. This guide is packed with so much insightful advice. As we wrap up, what's the biggest takeaway you want our listener to remember? What's the essence of what it means to be a successful Helldiver?
I think the most important message is don't rush to the highest difficulty. Take your time to explore, experiment, find your own play stuff.
Find what you enjoy.
Exactly.
And
Every difficulty level offers unique challenges and rewards. Embrace the journey, learn from your mistakes, and most importantly, have fun.
well said. It's about enjoying the process of getting better and finding what brings you the most satisfaction in the game. So listener, that's it for our Helldivers 2 Deep Dive.
See you on Super Earth.
We've given you the knowledge, the strategies, and hopefully a surge of excitement to get out there and play. Remember, even the most experienced Helldivers started as rookies. Embrace the challenge, find your squad, and make Super Earth your own. Until next time, happy gaming.